What's happening, financial coaches? It's Pete here. Hey, I want to talk to you today about friction in coaching appointments. Now, this is something that comes with experience, and it's something that's kind of really dependent on you having the confidence and knowing, when things are wrong, that you're going to speak up about them. And I talked a little bit about this in another video where I said, are we coaching or are we cheerleading? And that's not going to be a really easy thing. You can watch that video. I was pretty high level about it, but it's one of the things where I've seen clients fire coaches and move on to other coaches to basically get cheerleaders because they didn't like a coach telling them, hey, that's not the right thing to do. I know in most of your coaching training, you'll see things like, you never tell people that, you never weigh in, you're a bystander, you're an observer to their life. You're just supposed to help them uncover things. But there are times, and I call it the duty to warn, when people are doing something that's wrong, maybe illegal, maybe immoral, maybe self-destructive, maybe it's something that's going to be harmful to other people and themselves, right? I'm not just talking about having wrong information like, oh, I can take my money out of my retirement account penalty free anytime I want. Those are things where, yes, okay, again, duty to warn is probably going to be a little different. We're not judging, we're not trying to create friction unnecessarily, but you want to make sure you correct them on that. But there are going to be times when people need some pushback. I bring this up because it's something that I've seen coaches struggle with a lot. And to be really honest, it's something I struggled with when I started, very much so, right? Like when I would see something that I knew was wrong and people were making excuses for it or condoning it, or maybe even, giving themselves absolution or encouragement about doing things wrong. How much do I say? Am I worried about them biting my head off or being all, clam up or want to get rid of me? And I think what I learned is that, I think our anticipation, our expectation of a reaction is worse than the actual reaction. I think people are okay with some criticism, assuming that on the whole, the relationship is helpful. And on the whole, you have built a relationship. And that's really the key, is that we have the ability to push back. If you think about having conversations with your besties, right? Your BFFs, your best friends, right? There are times when you're not going to agree and you can say, hey, well, I don't think so. I think that's wrong, or that's silly, or here's another way to think about it. And however you approach it, this is going to be different for various people here. But if there's no friction, what I want to say here is that if everything is just supportive from you, if everything is just motivational and just happy and reinforces what they're doing is correct, then I'm not sure that that's helpful, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to improve when we can improve, right? And if we're just always saying everything's good, there's never really any push to improve. Now, I don't have a perfect example of this, but I did find this guy, Rich Litvin. I don't know him personally or anything like this, and I'm only vaguely aware of him, that obviously he must be pretty good in his field as a coach. What he's doing here is now, I think, business coaching. I think coaching other coaches, so maybe similar to this. And obviously, I think he's very successful. That's my expertise, or that's my expectation on this. And he has this video. He has a bunch of videos out there, but I was watching this one, and this lady comes up to talk to him about where she's at in her business. And what I think is really interesting is, he obviously hasn't worked with her before. He hasn't necessarily set a rapport, in my opinion, with her. But right out of the gate, he does a little pushing back. And I think it's warranted. For me, I think what I heard, and my instinctive response to what she says right out of the gate, is kind of blaming other people for her situation and absolving herself of any of these expectations. It reminds me of people who say, I just can't date anymore. Everyone I meet is an idiot. Or I just can't work in corporate anymore. Every boss I've ever had is an idiot. And one of the things I think about is, how can every boss be an idiot? How can every person you ever date be an idiot? What's the common denominator there? What's the common thread to them all? So maybe some people are the problem, right? Whereas they always think it's external to them. It's the problem. And I hear a lot of these things where people say, hey, I'm going to move to a different town. I got to get out of this city. Or, oh, college was terrible because everyone there was terrible, whatever it is, and a lot of people don't want to look, internally. They don't want to be introspective about things, right? And I don't want to either. I don't want to say, hey, here's my list of faults and dwell on them. So what I liked about this is that he wasn't reluctant to push back. And I don't think in a mean or harsh way, but he wasn't just someone who rolled over and said, that's a great story, And what I liked about it is I thought he handled it well. Now, everyone's going to be a little bit different in this, but I just wanted to show you what I saw here, and I thought immediately, this is a moment of friction. It's not necessarily a moment of pure support. And if you watch the rest of the video, I'm not going to show you the whole video. He starts to work with her, and what ends up happening here is that because he's able to kind of break down the facade a little bit, they're able to have a more genuine conversation, start the base of their conversation, their coaching experience in a more real place, not necessarily built on this foundation that's an illusion of what she has thought of her past, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Hopefully this works here. And you can just see what I'm saying here, that this is their first meeting, first time they've ever met. She's just someone pulled out of the audience.
And it's kind of weird because there's people watching us, but if for a moment we can put a little bubble around us and allow yourself just to sink in just a little bit, as if there's nobody here, just you and me.
Okay.
Cool. How should we play? How can I serve you best right now?
So I quit my job in December. Quit my job in December after I built my business for about 3 years, kind of on the side, just not even really bringing that much money. I mean, I think I made maybe 20 grand the first year, like doubled that the second year. Got to a place where I hated my job and gave my boss the middle finger one day and walked out.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's an interesting story. And I'm pausing you. What's going on?
Go ahead.
Is there something coming?
No, I was just going to say, and then the business took off.
And do you remember the question I asked you?
How can you serve me?
Yeah. So I don't actually need the story right now.
Okay.
I don't actually need it even if we were sitting down and we had 2 hours. There I might give you a little bit more space for it. But particularly because we don't have a lot of time right now, I don't actually need that story at all. Now, don't get me wrong. Just stay with me for a second longer, right? Because I know that story is important to you. I know that quitting a job, doing what you've done, there must be a sense of pride, there must be some scary moments in that story, there must be some excitement in that story. And I get why you might want to share it, and I'd love to hear it. And in this moment right now.
Well, I mean, I guess.
So hang on a second.
Okay.
Because we need to be with one another right now. What are you feeling in your body in this moment?
Oh, look, I'm shaking.
Yeah. Where are you feeling that the most strongly? Your heart? Is it pounding?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I want to do is give you some space to slow down and just to be with one another.
Okay, I want to pause it there. Obviously he goes on and she actually gets a little emotional about things. And one of the things that I really liked about this is that right out of the gate, he didn't wait for, hey, I've worked with this person for a year. I have a good relationship with her. Now I can be honest with her. He kind of has this expectation that, listen, I'm going to be honest out of the gate. I actually really appreciate that. I don't know that his process, his mannerisms are the same. He seems much more empathic to me, kind of much more on the feel side, where I'm kind of more on the intellectual side of it. Not saying intellectual, but kind of more on the mechanical side. I'm kind of more business and process driven. And I think he is more connecting on the feeling side. And I think he does a great job of that. I wish I could do a better job of that sometimes. But one of the things that I liked about this is that he was willing. It's not necessarily he's eager to find friction, but he's willing to go into that friction because he doesn't want to start off with something that's an excuse. Again, I don't want to try to read into that story about her. It's too much. It sounds like things that I've heard a lot when I go into coaching. But what I like about it is that, maybe they don't continue the coaching relationship. Maybe they don't have a professional relationship beyond that. Maybe she is so turned off, so uncomfortable by having someone confront her head on about something that she has told to a million other people, and that they have said, hey, good on you, good for you for giving your boss the middle finger and walking out and showing them, how to live and being successful on your own time. That might be. And I think a lot of people say that, and it's kind of like, hey, it kind of fluffs her up, right? But he kind of peeled that back in a really elegant way and allowed friction to then magnify the moments in the future here where he does support her, where he does encourage her, he pulls out her strengths, finds ways to build her up. When we're always cheerleading with coachees, right? It just starts to kind of desensitize them to that. If I say, hey, oh, you did your budget this month? Great, fantastic. You saved $5,000? Oh, great, fantastic. Oh, you achieved financial freedom? Oh, great, fantastic. There's really no, weight to anything anymore. And especially, if they say, hey, I've had tragedy and, we're selling the house because we can't afford it and I've bankrupted myself. And you say, hey, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. And we're always just cheerleading everything. The moments that we need to be, the moments when we need to address things head on, when we need to introduce some conflict, not conflict in an unhealthy way, but when we need to address things head on with people, they lose their power, right? Because we're always saying good things, so the good thing is, I don't want you to look for times to be combative or to find friction, but when they come up, when they're necessary, and when you feel like you don't have any other options, then go ahead and lean into it. Don't overdo it. I don't overthink it, but don't be afraid to take those moments to, wear your duty to warn hat, to kind of dig beyond the BS sometimes, and to go ahead and, address things head on. I think when you do that, and my hope is that you're probably celebrating things 10 times as often as you are trying to correct things or trying to undo things. But if you have those moments when your coachee says, hey, I know that if I'm doing things right, you're going to say it. And I know if I'm doing things wrong, you're going to say it. And I like that honesty. Then I think you have a really good, healthy relationship and you're going to help your participants grow. So don't seek out moments of friction, but don't avoid the moments of friction. I think they can be really powerful tools for helping, your clients achieve in the most effective ways possible. So that's it. I'll see you later.